Welcome back, everybody, to episode 43 of the Jader and Kyle Show. We are back, everyone. We missed last week.
Never get it right, dude.
No, you can't get it right. We missed last week, everybody. Sorry about that. That is my fault. I'll get to that in a second. But as always, I am joined by my esteemed co-host, Mr. Jader Parama. What's going on, sir?
It's going, man. It's going. Big week.
Good to see you again. We're back.
You too, brother. You too. I was supposed to see you last week. You sold me out, you dick.
And yesterday.
And what? When? Oh, and yesterday.
And yesterday. Yeah, that's
yesterday we were supposed to have a show, which we will do tomorrow, which we will promote at the end of the show. But yeah, man, it was, we had a week of a big film came out that we just recorded a show on the same network, Granny's PST show. We talked the Snyder Cut. I don't know if you want to talk about it very, very, very briefly, even though we just had a 2-hour episode on it.
I think we should talk about it with our guest when she pops on, if she has seen it. But we will we will not talk about it with our guest. The Snyder Cut is fine. All right, guys. There's my opinion. It is not any much different than the original cut. It's a lot better, but it's the same story. That was my take on it. I don't really need to see it again, but I know people like Jada really love this thing.
I really did love this movie. I thought it was fantastic. Again, this is coming from someone that did not like the 2017 version. There were some things that I liked about it, but overall thought it was a shitty film. So yeah, I did like this movie. I actually not liked it. I loved it. I thought it was great. I would change very, very minor things about it. But yeah, overall, great week. Hasn't been a shitty week. I've been busy as hell at work as usual. But sales have been good.
Nice.
I caught up with a couple films this week that I have not seen. Saw Promising Young Woman. Holy shit. That was great.
Good, right?
Saw Ted Lasso. Holy shit.
Yes. That would be an entire episode. We can't get into
that. Honestly, we have to discuss that. I know it's not a film, but we have to talk about that show. It's so great. Yes. I fell in love with every single character in that show. I only find like one character very, very obnoxious, and it's not even who you think it is. Yeah, man, I've been kind of relaxing. School has been kicking my ass, but at the same time, I'm kind of like at the end of the first part of my program.
Okay.
And I got a great email today because we've been doing our ride-alongs. Ride-alongs meaning the practice with on-hands practice with we're supposed to go to actual ambulances and fire departments to, get our community hours and all that stuff. There you go. Hey, look at that guy.
Hey, Farachi.
Hey, Farachi. But yeah, he's been. So I've been doing all my community hours or my hours and my clinicals and all that stuff at on campus. So we're doing CPR and we're doing, bullet wound, like covering bullet wounds and all that stuff. We're doing it on an actual dummy. Where we got the email today that, the governor's allowed not certain students, but one of our schools is actually doing ride-alongs. So I'm going to be actually doing them on the ambulances and the fire departments and all that stuff. So I'm going to be doing the real deal shit, which I got a little taste of last month when I went to the fire department, which was awesome. But we got that email today, and I was so stoked by it. So good news. It's been a pretty good week.
I can't wait to hear about the first life you save. It's going to be a truly extraordinary moment in human history, and I cannot wait to talk about it on the show. But today, we are late tonight, guys. It was because the other show, Granny's PhD, was going on. But fear not, we have a great show tonight, and I can't wait to get into it. But first, we have to introduce our guest for tonight. She is a part of the movie Trivia Schmodown community along with Jader. That's how they met. We're going to get into it all. We are joined now by Mrs. Rachel Silvestrini. Welcome to the show, Rachel.
Whoa, Mrs. Whew, I've been divorced for 6 years, my good sir.
I'm sorry.
Thank you very much. That was a very hard one.
It's Miss Guy.
Forgive me, I had COVID.
I appreciate the respect, but hi, guys.
Welcome to the show, Rachel. It's a pleasure to have you here. And Jader's been talking about having you on the show for quite a while, honestly.
Long time.
Yeah, there's been a lot of times. And
she was one of my first friends on the Schmodown, so forever grateful for her.
And now we're affection mates.
Look at that, man. We didn't even see that coming, to be honest with you.
No.
I remember when the second that Christian announced that I had won the competition, she was literally one of the first people to reach out and said, congratulations, welcome to the club, the whole nine. And then I met her in person, and she was just the sweetest person ever. So thank you so much. I've been talking to Kyle, and so I've been yeah, I know, seriously. But I told Kyle, I'm like, I got to get Rachel on the show. And then we did a show together. We covered The Boys season 2. We did a weekly show covering every episode of the Boys, and we had a lot of fun doing that shit. We go on tangents, we theorize, like fucking going crazy thinking theories, and we came up with some really, I don't know, it was such a kick-ass show to do. So I told him, I'm like, I gotta get Rachel on the show. And finally, thank you, you're here.
Of course.
Finally here, talking about a movie that we have been wanting to do for a while, but we will get to that. First, I want to get to Rachel, let the audience get to know her a little bit more. So, Rachel, tell us a little bit about yourself. What do you do now? What for fun? Actually, let's do this. Talk to me about your love of movies. Where did that come from?
That question that everybody likes to ask, like, what was your first movie that you ever saw in theaters? I literally can't remember, just because I've been going to see movies for so long, and it's just always, it's been one of those things that's like always there. It's like my love for music, like it's just constantly, it's just always been in the background. It's always been there. And I don't know, there's just something amazing. I love stories, no matter how they're told, whether it be through film or through music, through lyrics, or like literal, like just books. Like I am a sucker for a good story. And so this is one of my favorites because it kind of tells my life a little bit.
Oh, well, that's going to be something to unpack once we get started talking about it. So Rachel, tell me about the movie Trivia Schmodown then. How did you get involved in that whole thing?
Well, I ended up going to a convention and saw, in the scheduling, how you go through. Remember when conventions were a thing?
You remember conventions?
Wow.
Conventions when people were packed nuts to butts and fucking everywhere and coughing on each other and getting con crud and being fine about it. So I went to WonderCon a few years ago and went into the panel for the Schmodown after reading the description and being like, this is everything I want in my life. And I was like, oh, it's probably going to be some tiny little theater. And it was like the massive room. And I wandered in. It was packed like crazy. There was like 3 rows of people standing in the back. Funny enough, when I went by myself, so I found a seat in the very front. And the panel started, and it was just everything I wanted. And so I got to talking to Christian, and I was on tour at the time. And so we kind of figured out like the whole, like, oh, you're planning on moving back to LA. When you do, let me know when you're ready to compete, because we'd love to have you in, because at that time they were really hard up to get females to compete. Yeah. There was like maybe 6 or 7, and like maybe 4 of them were like staunch regulars. Mm-hmm. And I think only one of them is still competing. I think Stacy's the only one at that time.
You started before Janine, right?
No. I started after Janine. Janine had like 2 or 3 matches under her belt by the time I came in, because my first match recorded, I want to say, in August of 2018, and she had started in like I think the fall of 2017. But yeah, I just got addicted to it, and I'm super competitive, and I love movies, so it's like, and I love wrestling, so it's like the perfect conglomeration of everything that I love.
Yeah, and I think like you said before, it was I think Clark was a part of the Schmodown at the time. It was
Miss
Movies, and I think like Gray Drake was a part of it at the time.
Yeah, there were a few girls that like popped in. Yeah, there were a few non-regulars that came in. Wendy would play every now and then. But yeah, there weren't a lot of females competing back then. And, I think Janine was the first one after that group that was introduced as like a regular. And then I came on. Vanessa a little bit with Late to the Party. But yeah, it's been a fun ride.
Yeah, it's come a long way. And I know, like, Jader, it's changed so much since you've started now, too. Like, the communities are so much bigger at this point now, right?
There's so much studying. There's so much studying. it's crazy to believe, not believe, but in conversation and all that, like knowing what I know now, I feel that the league was easier back then because again we would look at it, I'm like, all right, I could compete, and but now you legit have to study, you have to deep dive in IMDb's, especially how the 5-pointer questions are going on now, where they're not going to tell you, they're going to give you like 5-pointers are. So this season they again, and this was a debate going on with season 7 where they wanted the audience to be able to be like, hey, I can do this too, right? Like that was the main idea while still making it challenging. So what do? They give you easier 5-pointers, but they won't mention like the top 3 or 4 cast members of the film. Mm-hmm. So you have to do some deep dives into IMDb or really watch the film and know it, ins and out. But I feel like, I don't know, the it's getting more competitive, and it's something that I love. That's the reason why we're in this, it's because I love our film. We know we have film knowledge. Again, I've said this multiple times where I have an uncle that calls me and he'll give me literally a sentence of a synopsis of a film, where he'll be like, hey, what's that film with this guy and, the dog? And I'm like, oh, yeah. Old Yeller or whatever. Or, Far From Home, The Adventures of the Yellow Dog. And he's like, yes, dude. Yes, that's the one I was talking about. Little things like that where it's just my love for it. I can't stress that enough, that I love this game so much. And I know right now, like me personally, I'm so busy, right? Just life, like trying to fix my life and trying to, maintain the lights on in my apartment and, make sure that my kids don't need anything. But I didn't want to say goodbye to this. I made a decision last year to go back to school after not being in school for 13 years, but I have so much love for this game. And I literally said, if I have to like cut my, social life, or if I have to cut, like I won't, the Schmodown is something that I don't want to sacrifice. It's something that's very near and dear to me. And that's why I care about it so much. And Rach, she's in my faction. She knows there's times where, I can't make it, but if I'm there and I'm trying to help, I'm going to be there 100% throwing questions at you, trying to get us ready, because I love this game so much. I don't miss a single match anymore. There was a time, like even Kyle and I, like, last year during the end, I kind of like had to like stop watching matches because I was deep in school and I'm like, I have to pass my final. I have to, midterm final, what have you. And Kyle even asked me, he's like, dude, have you seen any matches? I'm like, I haven't. Right before the draft, drill. I started watching every single match that I missed. Now we're doing, with our faction, not giving too much away, but we'll do watch alongs when they're premiering live, test our knowledge to see what we got to work on. I love this game. I love this game so much. Like it's something that's very important to me. And I love that more people are getting into it. Like every year it gets more and more popular. I don't even think I've told Kyle this story. So I work for T-Mobile, right? And I went to go pick up a phone to another. I worked at a shopping center and there was a mall, and I needed to go to the mall to go pick up the phone. And I showed up to the mall, and literally someone like walking into the mall, someone that worked at T-Mobile was like, "You're the Hurricane." And I was like, what? Freaked out, dude. I freaked out. And I'm like, yeah. And then they're like, dude, I love the Schmodown. Holy shit, you're in our district? And I was like, yeah. I'm like, and then the guy that I went to go pick up the phone with had worked with me before, but I hadn't even told. Like, I don't really I told my coworkers once they mention movies, then I'll be like, hey, check this show out. But it's not something that I really like, hey, watch this because I'm in it. It feels weird to like promote it that way. And my boss, like it was my old boss that I went to go get that phone from, and he like looked at me and he goes, "What the hell is the Schmodown?" And he goes, "Dude, no, this guy rocks. He knows his movies." And I'm like, "Holy shit, man, this is nuts!" And again, like as much as I wish that the Schmoedown would come to Miami eventually. I just don't feel like there's a fan base for it. You know, like I was even surprised. I'm not gonna lie to you. I was surprised that Orlando sold the way that it did.
Yeah.
But I don't know, man.
You know what's
I don't
funny
even know.
though, Jader? I'm surprised at how our show kind of sells in Miami, because when I went to visit you in Miami, how many people came up to us and were like, "Oh yeah, it's you guys from the podcast."
Oh yeah, you guys from the podcast. Yeah, dude.
Like,
I
the
know.
hell?
That's what I'm saying. It was crazy. So Kyle lives about 3 hours away from me. And he just hit me up and he goes, "Hey, I have a couple days off." And I'm like, "Come down, man. Stay at my place." I'm
right.
like, "We can't, I'm like, we can't really like do much because of COVID, but I'm like, I can at least take you to eat some wings or whatever." So we went to a restaurant. We had a couple beers. He wanted to order wings at that restaurant. I'm like, no. We don't do wings here, man. We do wings at the right spot. You want wings? I'm gonna take you to where to eat wings. So we went, which is funny, Kyle. My best friend is now the manager there at Sports Grill. She got the job. She actually today started the job. It's so funny. Anyways,
Oh my God.
so yeah, but again, it was one of those when Kyle showed up, they're like, "Hey, man, you're the guy from the podcast," and then we're like, "Holy shit, man! Like, it's freaking great."
Yeah.
That's really funny. Yeah, the first time I got recognized outside of like drinking across the street from the studio in Burbank.
Where
we
at what place did you go to?
Oh, at Barney's, of course.
Barney's, yeah. Okay. I'm like, that's where I went. That's where we went. All right.
Do I look high class? No, this is trash bar all the way, baby. You know that.
Dude, I'm all about the hole in the walls.
Give
all
me
about
that
those
shit
places.
bar. Give me the shitty, smelly, sticky bar.
Yes. That's
any
exactly
day.
it.
$2 for a
Absolutely.
PBR. Oh God, I hate LA. No, but we were in Chicago for a celebration, and a whole bunch of us, like, we had all split up a little bit. Like there was, there was a never-ending group of like anywhere from like 10 to like 25 of us that were just constantly like coming and going and coming and going. And I went to go meet up with a group that was coming out of a hall after one of the talks. And as I'm walking to go get them, I literally get stopped by going, "Oh my God, is that Rachel Silvestrini?" And I'm like, "What the fuck is going on?" I'm like, "No one, like, anybody who knows me, like, knows I'm here. Like, who the fuck is talking to me?" And I turn out and it's a fan, and they were like asking for photos, and I was like, "Yeah, sure, I just got to go get a few people, and then I'll be right back." And like I came back, and they were so, oh my God,
trips me out.
It was the weirdest.
Tripped me out. It happened. Let me tell you, it happened to me immediately after the Orlando match, where again, it like he was there, and people were like, "Dude, let me take a picture with you. Like, this is gonna be huge. Oh my God!" And I'm like, "What the fuck is happening, dude? Like, what is this shit?" And then again, like, I have people messaging me all the time, like, "Hey, can I interview you? And I'm like, the thing is that I feel like I'm fucking I'm a fan of the Schmoedown still. Like, even if I wasn't part of it, I'd still be watching this shit hardcore.
Yeah.
So being part of this is actually, like, again, and I said this during my match with Janine, it's something very special because it's so near and dear to my heart. It was one of those things that when I saw for the first time, and as cliche as it sounds, it was kind of like I belong there too. Like, I'm like, I want this.
It's
this
a
is something that
recognition.
it really was, man. And then a quick shout out to Sam Macias, that he again, it was one of those things where he hit me up and he called me sir, and I was like, "Dude, drop that shit. What the hell's wrong with you, man?" I'm like, Jader's fine. Yeah, man. He was like, "Hey, Mr. Paramo. Mr. Paramo is what it was, not sir. It was Mr. Paramo." And I was like, "Dude, drop it, man." I'm like, "Trust me, that's not the fucking case here." And I did a quick little interview with him on Sunday, like a 30-40 minute interview of, just the journey so far. And he was great about it. But it's just those little things, that I love. The fandom in this is one thing that I absolutely adore. And I also give props to, I haven't been around you guys too many times, but during again, the Orlando match, spectacular, the draft, and when I recorded my first match. So, out of the 4 times that we really, really hung out, not one time did I see anybody turn down anybody for anything. Not once. And it was one of the greatest things, because as Kyle, I didn't even want to approach Christian or Ellis or anybody that night that I won in Orlando. It was funny enough. It was Hannah and Kyle that were like, "Dude, just go. They're fine. They're gonna want to talk to you eventually.
They have to talk to you."
Yeah. And then I was like, "No, I don't want to. Like I know what that." And there was a line to talk to certain people, like Ellis. He was at the bar, and there was like people like waiting in the back, and I'm like, man, I'm like, this must be exhausting. It has to be exhausting. I remember for the draft, I hung out the night before with Gucci and with Ellis down in the valley. I didn't know anybody, and I was with BC at the time, and BC, I flew in by myself. BC's like, I'm gonna fly in like 2 hours later, so I hung around, LA for a little bit, met up with BC, and then Ellis was like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "Hey, I land," because he's like, "Let me know when you land." I landed, and he's like, "Where you're at? Oh, where you at?" And I'm like, "Oh, I'm around here." And he goes, "Comedy shop. I'm here. Let's have some drinks." Gucci met us up, and we drank till late night,
early morning.
I showed up back to the Comedy Store for that draft. I was there already about around 8 because BC was the security guard, so you had to be there early. Ellis was already in there.
Yeah.
So I'm like, dude, we were like binge drinking last night, and this man is there. And then Ellis, right after the show, we hung out. We all hung out together after the draft. I forgot what bar it was, but we were at a bar. We all
Saddle
hung
Ranch.
out. Probably, I don't remember.
We went to Saddle Ranch, and then we went to the Den.
Oh, that sounds familiar. but we all hung out. Yeah, exactly. I'm not sure. So we all hung out. I was like, the man was drinking with me till about 2-3 in the morning. 8 a.m. he was already in the spot because I showed up at 8 and he was already in there. So he probably showed up 30 minutes prior, an hour prior. I don't know. Then he did the entire show. We went out to drink. We hung out. The man went back to the Comedy Store, performed for 15 minutes, and then came back to hang out with us. And not one time did a fan come up to him and he was like, "I'm tired," or "I can't do it." No, it's just there 24/7. And it just shows the type of people like that we deal with. He's a professional.
He's also just, it makes me almost rage out with how wonderful of a human being he is.
He's amazing.
Like, I can't even remember the amount of times that like he has sneakily paid for my tab, or like
it happened. So it happened that night.
He's such an ass about it. He's so sneaky. Exactly. He literally will walk up to the bar and be like, everybody who's here with us, can you put all their tabs on my credit card? I'm going to close out, and then he like Irish goodbyes like it's his career.
So that's exactly what happened. I remember. So exactly. So this is what happened the night of my recording. Remember, you and Ben had your match that day.
Yep.
Right. So it was you and Ben, Brittany Young and myself, Stacey Howard and Zipper recorded that day. Vinny and Vavida, Greg Alba and John Humphrey. Like everybody was, Craig was there. Everybody was there that day. We recorded. We went across the street. We had a great time. I remember that night because not the night, but the last trip before that, I bought beers for everybody. So I went to the bar and I did that thing, bought beers and I bought shots for everybody. He's like, "Why did you do that?"
Yeah.
And I'm like, one for me, one for you. I'm like, last time when we were in Orlando, I ordered shots in Orlando for Ellis, and he ended up paying for it. And I was like, no, I ordered these. And he goes, "It's on me, dude. Welcome to the team," And I was like, all right. So that happened. And then we go back and whatever. We're at Barney's. We're hanging out, this and that and that. I'm looking at the man, literally like, "You're not going to pay my shit. You're not going to pay my shit. You're not going to pay my shit." And he's like, "You want another round?" And I'm like, I told the bartender, I'm like, "Get him whatever he's drinking. Get me whatever I'm drinking." And then I'm like, "Bring me the tab so I can close it." And then she's like, "Oh, he already paid for the tab. Do you want to start a new one?" And I'm like, yes, I do.
Because he's a sneaky, wonderful motherfucker.
Always does that. Dude, Kyle, I shit you not. There were at least 25 people there, and we all had at least two to three drinks easily.
No, literally,
Easily.
one of the greatest moments in my life is when Ellis accepted a beer that I bought him. I'm not. You have no idea how hard that is because he times his trips to the bar very carefully. So like, I happened to figure out the rhythm, and I slid in real smooth, and like got a beer, and like he put his beer down, and I very smoothly like swapped it out for a fresh one. He went to grab it. He goes, "What happened to my beer?" And I'm like, "Oh, it was almost like you were basically done, and I got you a new one." He goes, "You suck." I was like, "Yes!"
So that's why when I brought the beers, I brought beers and shots. It was Dagnino, BC, Ellis, and myself, and I had already paid for it. And he goes, "Why did you do that?" And I'm like, "Dude, you got me last time, man. This is how it works." And he goes, "It's not how it works around here." And I was like, "What the fuck, dude?"
Yeah,
you know,
I could literally talk about Ellis and his generosity and wonderful heart like for days on end. He's just
incredible. No, he's incredible. So let me ask you a quick question. I heard a rumor, not a rumor, you told me, that you know John Leguizamo.
Yes.
Tell me about that.
About the tour, about John and getting to hang out and having his phone number in my phone and getting to text him on birthdays and holidays. It's very weird and wonderful. I miss working for him. He was the best boss I ever had. He's so generous. He's very much like the Latin version of Ellis. He's just so giving of his time and his experience. There were many times during the tour that because I sell merchandise, I would always be the last one out of the theater pretty much. So I would get out of the theater while they're still like just finishing loading out. And I would go to the hotel bar, grab a drink before they shut down. And a few times John would be at the bar and we would just start talking. He's like he's just so intelligent and so well spoken. And he's just such a wonderful man to know. And the fact that he's so successful on all of this, like it boggles my mind. I actually I went to go text him the other day, but he was doing an Instagram live, but I'm just dying for him to be like, "Hey, going back out on tour when all of this is over," and be like, "Great, where do we start?" And I'm calling Kenneth right now to make sure that
it's funny.
I love you guys.
He comes to Miami all the time whenever he's got a movie for press. It's great. I was there when this was right around when Disney Plus was coming out. I was talking to Adrian Martinez and the dogs from Lady and the Tramp, and at the same time, there was another press junket going on for that John Cena movie, Playing with Fire.
Yes. So I text Rachel about that. So quick little story. I'm on my way to interview Adrian Martinez for Lady and the Tramp.
Yeah,
and I get a call. And they're like, "Hey, dude, are you here?" And I'm like, "No, man. I'm like 25 minutes out because it's in the beach." And they're like, "Can you is there any way that you can be here any faster?" And I'm like, "Not really. Why? What's up?"
I would love to be here faster. You can't.
Yeah,
I just enjoy sitting in traffic.
Literally called me and they're like, I can shoe you in very quickly to interview John Leguizamo for Playing with Fire. And I'm like, "Are you fucking kidding me?" And I'm like, I didn't even see the movie, but I'd ask him about his whole past, literally about every other fucking movie that he's done.
Yeah.
And I told you about this, Rachel, and that's when the conversation came up and you're like, "Oh, I know him personally." I was like, "What?"
Yeah, I was so sad because like we were in Miami for like 3 days after, like literally the day after Thanksgiving for like that Black Friday weekend 2 years ago.
I'm sorry.
Why?
Black Friday here is terrible.
I didn't leave the hotel. I went from the hotel to the theater and back to the hotel, and that hotel. Okay. No, I don't do the beaches in Miami. This is not a Miami body. This is a Wisconsin body.
Miami just got shut down for partying too hard. Like this place is wild.
Yeah, I'm not about to do that. But no, I just remember
when the Schmodown comes to Miami, we're gonna have.
I had tickets. I think I texted you because I had tickets to the show, and I was like, "I would love for you to come," and you're like, "I can't. I got to work," and I was like, I was so sad because I was gonna be "Hey, you want to come meet John after the show?" I
would have quit.
Legitimately the nicest man in the world. I'm gonna text him as soon as we're done. Well, actually tomorrow because he's in London right now, and just be like, hey, can we go back out on tour, please?
Yeah, dude.
I can't believe this conversation went from Rachel to Mark Ellis to John Leguizamo. Like I didn't see this coming at all.
Welcome to my life.
Why do you think I was plotting this the whole time? No, dude. No,
So let's make
I'm
a
telling you.
little bit of a transition real quick, Rachel. Before we jump into Almost Famous, I want to hear about some of your other favorite films because I know you and Jader did your show about the boys. So I assume it's the comic book genre one of your favorites. I know from the Schmodown you love your Disney films. So what are some of your go-to things?
I mean, it depends on the feeling, but like I said, my favorite thing about movies is the story of it all. And sometimes it's ridiculous. Like I love the movie 21 and Over. I know it's crap, but it's so much fun.
What?
I love that movie.
Oh.
I got to talk to Skylar about that movie, and I was like, I just want to let you know while I have you, I love this movie. And he just started laughing. I'm like, I know it's bad, but I love it. And he goes, yeah, it's terrible. But Miles and I had a great time in it. And I'm like, I love that movie. I watch it every time I fly because it makes me laugh every single time. But
Dude,
I
couldn't stand that fucking movie.
It's so good. And I love Van Wilder because it's stupid and it's Ryan Reynolds and I'm deeply in love
But
with
I
him.
love Van Wilder. Van Wilder's actually a good flick to me. Like
It's so good.
I really do.
Yeah, but then there's, Dogma and like all of the Kevin Smith movies, which I love to the marrow of me.
By the way, she was really pissed that we did Dogma without her.
We didn't talk for about 2 months after.
Yeah, she was like, "What?" Because she's like, "Hey, what's up with that?" She goes, "Am I still doing your show?" I'm like, "Absolutely." And she goes, "All right." I'm like, "I just need film." She goes, "Oh, it's probably gonna be Kevin Smith." I'm like, "All right, all cool except for Dogma. We just covered it." And she was like, "Are you fucking kidding me? Without me?" And I'm like, "I know. I thought about it. I'm not gonna lie. You know what Dogma lost to? Funny enough,
what?
Almost Famous.
No, it beat.
Huh?
I said no, it beat Almost Famous.
It
beat
not lost to. Not lost to. I'm sorry, not lost to. Dogma beat Almost Famous. That's what I meant. That's what I meant. Sorry.
Yeah. No, I love a movie with a good story and a good cast who like the story doesn't even have to be that good, but if the story's not good and the cast invests, like it's so much fun. And it's just I love good movies. I love movies with twists and happiness and sadness, and I cry at everything. You know that thing that everybody's doing right now on Twitter of like, it's just a movie. Yeah. Why are you crying? And then like I literally could put any movie. Every movie makes me cry. I cry during Armageddon because I'm fucking a daddy's girl who doesn't have a daddy anymore. Like shit like that affects me. I am emotional.
I cried at the end of Moneyball, and I barely watch baseball. Like it doesn't make sense. It happened. And when Brad Pitt's just listening to his daughter singing in the car, I was like, "Wow, this is beautiful."
It's overwhelming.
That's what movies do. They bring out these emotions in us, and it's a new experience every single time. We talk about it all the time on the show, Jader. So let's get into how great this movie is and Almost Famous. So before
we get into it. We again, and I'm gonna admit this 100 times over. Every time that it fucking happens, I'm gonna admit this, Kyle. We cheated. We didn't
cheat.
Yes, we did. This was overdue, but it was cheating. We did not put a poll up, Rachel. because this movie would have lost again.
Oh yes.
So
what do you think it would have lost to? Because I gave you 5 movies, and I can't even remember what they are now. But
oh my gosh, what are these movies?
What they are? Give me 1 second. I'll tell you exactly what they are because I have.
This movie has been on quite a few polls, and it always loses, including the Dogma.
So you gave me Fanboys, Almost Famous, Empire Records, Josie and the Pussycats, and Jay and Silent Bob Reboot, right? Yeah. I probably, which I wouldn't be mad about, but I did this for the sake of this man right here. We probably would have lost to Empire Records or Fanboys.
I think it would have been Jay and Silent Bob.
You think so?
Yeah, I know our audience now.
So come back and do Jay and Silent Bob Reboot. Like I will probably die talking on a podcast about my movies.
I can talk about Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back all fucking day. The thing is, another reason why I didn't want to do Reboot is because Kyle hasn't seen Strike Back. Yeah.
So I knew Kevin Smith dive.
Yeah. So, but anyways, I'm thinking it was gonna be Empire Records or Fanboys. To be completely honest with you, um, look at Tim. Look at Tim. Look at the combo right there. Still taking shots at me.
Yeah.
But yeah. So Timmy had Almost Famous and Dogma on his list, but Dogma ended up winning. So Kyle's like, why the fuck can we not pick a great movie to talk about? Again, he's just 90s is not his thing.
Well,
Right?
Good Will Hunting was also
Good
on
Will
that.
Hunting was another one that was on that and lost. It lost by like 1 vote to Dogma, if I'm not mistaken.
Wow, that vote was
So,
probably
yeah.
mine.
We picked the wrong.
Tim gave us a hell of a list. But so when he saw your list, he's like, "We're doing Almost Famous." I'm like, "I'm not gonna argue because I've already seen this show betrays you 9 times out of 10. 9 out of 10 times this show betrays you." I'm like, "I'll tell her we're doing Almost Famous. I love this film, so let's do a deep dive."
It's your show. Sometimes you just got to put your foot down and be like, "This is what I want."
That's literally what Kyle's doing. I think he's done it twice already. He's done it twice.
No, more than that. I think I did it with. I know I did it with RB3 with The Social Network. We had Alex. We did what's the American Psycho?
American Psycho.
Yeah, it's happened quite a few times, and you know what? I'm gonna keep doing it because we got to pick the good movies. And Almost Famous is just one of those where it's like it's sitting on a poll. Why aren't we picking this? It's one of the most classic films to me, I think, of the 21st century, where there's a reason why it's been on quite a few people's list. Is there's so much to unpack with this film, so much to dive into it with. So Rachel, I want to start with you. This movie was on your list, and you said you had a lot to say about this. So please tell me, why is Almost Famous one of your favorite ones?
I toured for 17 years, and I would watch this movie the night before I would leave for tour every time. I remember going to my first concert when I was 14 years old, and I turned to my mom during intermission, and I was like, "This is what I want to do for the rest of my life. I want to be in the entertainment industry."
Who did you see?
Oh, I saw Billy Joel and Elton John face to face.
Oh my fucking God.
For free.
I am dying to see this fucking show because they've done it multiple times.
It was
holy shit
and wonderful. And so ever since then, it was just one of those things that like, I just knew that I needed to do that. And so as soon as I got my license, I started, working concerts in San Francisco because I grew up in the Bay Area. And I would just go to San Francisco, and there's nothing like being a part of something that brings people together the way that live concerts do, the way that music does. You can literally it's in Broadway as well. Like they did a study where they put heart monitors on people at a musical, and at a certain point, at some point during the show, everybody's heartbeat was synced together.
Synchronized.
Yeah.
Nice.
So it's like everybody's feeling the same things together. Everybody's literally there in the moment as one. And like, there's just something magical about that. And so I just always wanted to be a part of that. And I cannot sing nor play a musical instrument, but I can tour manage and I can sell merchandise and do all the backstage stuff and make sure that, I can do ID checks for the girls that are on the bus and make sure that nobody gets arrested. I'm really good at that. And then I started touring with, I did 8 summers with Warped Tour and toured with punk and metal bands for 9 years. And then I did 5
We need to talk, Rich. We need to talk. I know what your show's based on, and I'm like, I need to jump on this shit. Like, now. Like,
we'll get you on.
We'll gotta do it, because let me tell you, and this is gonna suck if the lawyers are watching this right now, because I'm obviously fighting custody right now. My money, literally, like if it's one thing that I blow my money on, is shows. Like it's concerts, and it's just for those 3 to 4 hours, I just feel like free,
it's group therapy.
Liberated. It's therapy for me. It really is so therapeutic. So I understand that 100% with you.
Yeah, and there's just something beautiful about, like, obviously I never got to tour in 1973 or be part of that era because I was 11 years from being born. But it's one of those things that, like, regardless of the time, there's just that camaraderie that comes with touring. Like, it is an instant family. You are together 24/7, whether you want to be or not, in very, very close confines with each other. And it's just like the beautiful things that happen on tour where every day is the best and worst day of your life. And, you know, people meet people and start relationships and break up and get married and have babies and OD and pass away. And like, there's just so much that happens to people when they're on the road. And this movie just, it brings back that feeling. And I will probably cry at some point during the show, just a heads up, because I get very emotional. And this movie makes me very, very happy.
Well, it has that aura to it that not many movies have, where you want to be in that world. You want to be a part of this. And I don't know how accurate it is, Rachel. I'm sure you could attribute this, how accurate it is to the touring and band lifestyle, but it feels very authentic. Like, clearly, like, obviously one of the big things about this film is that it is very loosely based on Cameron Crowe's life, like his upbringing. And he toured with the Eagles, I believe it was.
He toured with Zeppelin.
I think
he toured with Zeppelin, and he toured with a lot of people. Actually,
fuck the Eagles, man.
He would like jump from tour to tour. But yeah, Cameron Crowe had a great fucking career as a rock journalist. And his stories are amazing. I actually just rewatched the direct. First of all, if you're gonna watch this, guys, if you haven't watched this, watch the original version, but make sure you have access to the director's cut, because the director's cut is everything that Cameron wanted it to be. And the first one, when you watch it, you're like, this is amazing. How could this be any better? And then you watch the director's cut and you're like, this is what it needs to be. Like, this is the cut that should have been released. Like, I don't know if you guys know, but this movie was originally released in my hometown here in San Jose. We have a movie festival that happens, and he released it here, and it was like almost a 4-hour cut.
Shit.
Yeah.
No, I didn't know that.
Jeez. Which is really funny, because the other day on Twitter, everyone's like, what movie do you want a 4-hour cut of, because of, the Snyder Cut? And I was like, there's no question. I want the 4-hour cut of this movie. Like, I want more cities. I want the shenanigans that happen in Dallas. I want, what happened in Seattle. I want to find out, I want to see them getting stuck on the side of the road in the middle of nowhere in Kansas, because that always fucking happens. Like, I want those stories with these people and this group.
Yeah, and it's I think the rock band lifestyle is something that's a lost art form almost, because look at the musicians today. We don't have bands anymore. That are popular, at least. Like, they're really not out there anymore. You don't see that touring lifestyle, especially with COVID. Who knows when touring is ever going to become a thing again?
I
swear to God, I hope it's fucking soon. I had so many tickets to so many shows last year, like, bought. And to, like, my favorite bands of all time. I should have known better that of my top 5 favorite bands, 4 of them were touring here in Florida. And I'm like, there's no way. And I told them, I'm like, 2020 is going to be the greatest year ever. And look what happened. It sucked, because I'm like, I never in a million years would have thought, that my favorite, like, of my top 5, 4 were coming. Yeah. And just obviously no one ever thought that we were going to be in the situation that we were going to be in.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I mean, there's, to go back to Kyle's question, the whole thing about like how touring is different. Like, touring, it does get the feeling very right about living on a bus and being around the people and, like, getting frustrated and fighting, and then like going off to some fan's house in Kansas City or in Topeka and partying, and then getting rescued by the bus the next morning and going to the next city and having to deal with the aftermath. That's very, very real. But what is, like, it's so different. Like, that type of touring is very different from like the 90s and early 2000s touring, as much as that is different from touring in like the 2010s and 2020s. Like, the way that, buses have progressed and technology has progressed. Like, you don't actually need to be around each other all the time. Like, you can zone out and put your headphones on and like watch a podcast or watch a movie, where if you watch the movie very carefully, there's not a TV in that bus. There's a radio that is controlled by your driver. So you better make sure that your bus driver has really good taste in music. And there's no like bunks. Everybody's just kind of sleeping in the seats until they get to the next city. So it's like, it's so very different, but yet like the undercurrent of the tone of everybody on tour still remains the same.
It's like that whole era of the 70s and 80s rock bands, just like it really fascinates me. You can make a movie about almost every single popular rock band out there and how they kind of just their ups and downs through it all. And I feel like Stillwater, what we get with that in this movie is kind of like a good encapsulation of that. We get to see the ups and downs of this band, how they live different lives when they're on the road compared to when they're at home, and how this young boy gets to see it through his eyes, and now he wants to tell the world about it through this article that he's writing. And I just think it's so fascinating because this movie is, in a way, dated, but still holds up so well. Because the whole writing for journalism and all that stuff, it's not the same. It would be different if this movie was made today, but it still works very, very well.
I mean, I don't know if dated is the right way. I think it's very true to the time.
Yes, it's of its time.
Yeah, it's very like it's very reminiscent. Like it's very true to the 70s. But like I also love the fact that they're following an opening band and not a headlining band. Who the headlining band probably has a sleeper bus with bunks for everybody, whereas they have Doris and she has seats. And you have to like fight for the bench seat. But yeah, no, I just it's just such a beautiful movie that gets I don't know. Let's deep dive. Let's
deep dive. Let's jump into the categories here.
Can I tell you guys a quick secret?
Uh-oh. You never
I saw this movie. No, man. Well, yes, kind of. I saw this movie for the first time last year. Very first time. I thought that this movie was like a hardcore, like drug drama, like deep dive into the band, and the guy gets swirled into the drug world, like kind of like Boogie Nights. So you know how Boogie Nights takes like a very dark turn. Like I thought it was gonna be like Boogie Nights, and I saw this movie studying for the Schmodown before my first match last year. So I started doing deep dives in Cameron Crowe films, and just doing my dives into like very popular films that I had never watched, like movies that would be shocking for somebody that was in the Schmodown and be like, "Hey, I've never seen that movie."
You know what? Everybody has massive holes in their experience of watching things. So like,
agreed. So I saw this movie for the first time about a year ago, honestly, and I found it to be so fucking charming. Mm-hmm. I don't know if I saw the director's cut or not, so I don't know. I saw one version of this film. I don't know what it was. It was on and I saw it. I don't know what the difference between director's cuts or not. So I can if you know a certain scene, and I'm
like the director's cut, Jader, because I remember talking to you just like the other day, and you're like, "Well, the movie's like it's a long one. It's like 2.5 hours long," and I'm like, "No, it's 2 hours."
Okay, so I guess I saw the director's cut for the first time, so I don't even want to see the theatrical cut because I thought this movie was like top notch, charming film. It has its little darkness to it here and there, but it blew me away because it was something that I wasn't expecting, and that's one of the things that lately have been great about films. Like again, Promising Young Woman. I know we're not talking about it, but I had never seen Promising Young. Like I didn't even know what it was about. And just once I saw it, I was like, holy shit, this is a great film. Like I really, really dug that film. Almost Famous was one of those movies where I remember I was watching it and it sucked because when I saw it the first time, I've seen it 3 times now. But the first time I saw it, I was like taking notes watching this movie, right? I wasn't really enjoying. And I feel like the first time you see a movie is when you enjoy. The second time, take notes if you're in the Schmodown, what have you. But the first time I saw it, I remember that Steph was doing her hair, cutting her hair, I don't know. But she came to my house, and I was already maybe about, I want to say 45 minutes in. So I had to like speed her up quickly, and she sat down, and she honestly was blown away by the film. She was, I've never seen this either. She's like, wow. So we ended up seeing it a second time, and that's where she was like, it's one of her favorites.
Yeah. It has so much heart, and it's so charming.
It has a lot, exactly, heart, and it's so charming.
But without being schmaltzy.
Exactly.
Like,
Exactly.
so
And I didn't think, I honestly thought it was like a very like hard drug 70s film about like this guy that gets lost in this fucking rock and roll world. And you know, he just loses his mind and becomes like a drug addict. Like that's honestly, I was thinking like a mix between fucking Rockstar with Mark Wahlberg and Requiem for a Dream. That's what I was
It's
expecting.
crazy that you think that, considering Cameron Crowe made this movie.
I know.
Yeah, exactly.
He doesn't do that at all.
No, exactly. But
isn't that the movie that they made about Motley Crue? Like, isn't that
the Dirt
version of that movie?
Which the anniversary was like 2 days ago, and I was like, "Fuck yeah, I love that movie." It's so shitty, but it's so great. But I loved it. But yeah, so I it was just mind blowing to me that this movie that had so much heart in this film. And honestly, when Kyle was like, "Hey, we're doing Almost Famous," I'm like, I'm on board. We need to talk about this movie. This movie's been on a list like 3 times, and it's lost every single time, And I'm like, why? Why can't we talk this film? So thank you.
Well, let's give it its justification now, then. So let's hop into the categories here. It's really going to give us a chance to deep dive into so many different things that have happened in this. So best scene is our first category here, and Rachel, I'm going to jump to you first on this. There's so many nominees I feel like we could touch on, but what is your favorite scene in Almost Famous?
So picking as soon as I thought we were just talking about this, and then Jader sends me like all of these like best of worst things, and I'm like, I don't want to pick my favorites. This is hard. But for me, I think the best scene, and I've said it before, I think the best scene in any movie I've ever seen, like I'm so angry she didn't win an Oscar, even just for this scene, is the What Kind of Beer scene. It's after her birthday party with everybody on tour on a day off in a field in the middle of nowhere. She finds out that she is not invited to New York and that the girls are leaving to go somewhere else because Russell's girlfriend is going to meet them in New York and she can't be there. And so she gets in that argument with William, and you know they get in a fight, and she basically is like, he loves me, and he goes, the man who sold you for $50 and a case of beer, and like just looking at her face and her eyes, and she starts to cry, and she very casually wipes a tear away, and she very casually asks, "What kind of beer?" and then like kind of breaks down a little bit, but like doesn't cry profuse. Like it's one of the most moving and beautiful, and like I think it's, in my opinion, it's the most well acted scene I've ever seen in my life, because she goes through like 60 different emotions in like 4 seconds. I love that scene.
She plays everything through the eyes, and it's not something that's easy to do at all. To just convey something with looks instead of like saying something. The way
can we be complete? I'm sorry to interrupt, dude. I'm so sorry to interrupt. Can we be honest about something? Who didn't fall in love with Kate Hudson in this fucking movie?
Fun fact: she was actually originally cast to play Anita, the sister, a much smaller role, and because of her dedication to the movie, because it's such a small role, she kept getting offers to do these bigger projects that like with bigger roles and everything. And she was so dedicated to the project that Cameron Crowe saw her dedication as the type of dedication that these girls, these band-aids would have towards these bands, just heart and soul devotion. Like, I'm not going anywhere. These are my favorite people. I don't care what happens. I don't care what you offer me. I'm not going. And so because of that, he was like, she was always my Penny Lane anyway. And so they bumped her up to Penny Lane and cast Zooey Deschanel as the sister Anita.
That's crazy. And wait till we get to casting What Ifs. There's gonna be a lot more there to unpack. But I'm gonna go right now, Jader. I'm gonna step in here. I'm gonna go with the plane scene. I really love when they think the plane's going down and they think they're all about to die, and they just let out everything. And it kind of puts the spotlight on how ridiculous they've been acting towards each other, and how, you know, bands, they let their bullshit get to them, and they let it affect their relationships with each other. And in this moment, they're just exposing everything and letting out all of their emotions, their true feelings. And it's a really great moment of rawness that you don't see much within throughout the movie. And this moment is when they are the most honest throughout the entire thing. And I love when William just calls them all out. Like she loves you and you're just going to let her go. I love that. So I think that's probably my favorite scene. Obviously there's so many to choose from. And we'll probably get to them once we find out what Jader's is. So Jader, what is your pick?
Oh, bitch, that was my favorite scene. So I'm going to go with my fucking backup just to mention this scene, just to throw it out there. And it's the Tiny Dancer scene.
Yes, so that's the
love it. Yeah. It's fantastic, man. It's just a literally perfectly put like song to scene like ever, to be completely honest with you. It's just, you have the band has a big ass fight, meltdown, the whole nine, and it's just a synchrony with this shit. It's so fantastic. I love this song. So that was my favorite scene. It's second favorite scene from the plane scene, because the plane scene, I think that's one of the differences in the director's cut, if I'm not mistaken, right? The plane scene wasn't in it.
No, the plane scene's in the original cut. It's just I think they cut out a few of the lines for time, but like the plane scene it's like the apex of the movie. They can't really edit it too much without changing the reason why. The reason that everybody leaves and the reason that they're so angry when the fact checker calls. Because then all their shit's out already. They're all in a bad mood because they just spent the whole time yelling at each other.
I'm gonna need 1 second, guys. Give me 1 second. I'm sorry.
A runner-up for me was probably the beginning when we are seeing William trying to first get into cover Led Zeppelin at the beginning. And the manager won't let him in, and then he meets Stillwater at the time, and he meets Penny Lane, meets them all, and how he just connects with the band because he's actually a true fan. Like he proves to them wrong. I'm not a journalist. I'm a true fan. And he knows all their names, knows everything about them. It's such a great introduction to everybody at that moment. So I think that's a great little scene to mention. In the comments here, we also have Tim saying that he loves when Russell shows up at William's house instead of Penny's, and he finally gets that one-on-one interview. That's a great moment. We got Andres Gallegos in here. I am a golden god. We're probably about to get the best line soon. I think that might come up. And then Tim also brought up the T-shirt scene. Do you have any others that you want to bring up, Rachel?
Yeah. I mean, I love the T-shirt scene. This T-shirt scene is amazing. I do love the Tiny Dancer scene because there are so many times. So when you tour with a band, it's usually like 4 to 12 weeks at the very most. And so like that's a significant amount of time. But when I toured with Broadway, we were on tour for like 9 months together, and we reached a certain point. We would start usually in like August or September, and you reach a point in February that everybody just gets so annoyed with everyone else. Like the weather's always crappy. It's always cold. You're constantly around these people. You miss your family, and everything just comes to a head. And we refer to it as fuck you February. And so Tiny Dancer is such a true scene because no matter what's going on, like if they're like, you could have a room full of angry dancers and put on a song and they all just kind of like, just start dancing together and like everything's fine then. Music cures everything. I love that scene. I also really love the scene where Russell and Elaine, William's mother, talk on the phone, and he like answer William's on the phone with his mom, and Russell comes, he's like, "Hey mom, your son's a rock star, blah blah blah," and she's like, and she just the fact that she always calls him Russell, and she like brings him down. She's like, "I know you're a good man, like just be careful. He's a 15-year-old boy. Like, of course he idolizes you." And like, I love that whole speech. And also the scene where Jimmy Fallon comes in to talk to the band.
Yes.
It's literally the moment in music history. It represents the moment in music history where everything changes. Everything becomes corporate and commercial. Whereas before everything was like, all of the record labels were like, mom and pop owned. And like, even if you still belong to a mom and pop record company, you could still get radio play and all of that. And then the conglomerations came in and took over. And I just love the juxtaposition between that scene and how corporate and sterile it is to the scene that they show afterwards, which is actually happening at the same time, which I think is one of the most beautiful scenes ever, with Kate Hudson dancing in a dirty empty venue with the lights on and the trash is still around and she's dancing around and sitting there with her rose. Like, it's so poignant. And like, I remember those moments after a show before leaving the venue and just looking around, and like there's still that leftover vibe from the show, just kind of like clinging to the air that you just feel as it starts to fade with time. Mm-hmm. It's so beautiful, and that moment just gets encapsulated so perfectly between the music and just Kate.
Yes, and that is also Cameron Crowe's favorite scene. Mm-hmm. That's the one he brings up when when asked what's his favorite scene. It is the scene of Kate Hudson just dancing in the middle of that auditorium.
I will say this though, because I like I said, I rewatched the director's cut, but I watched it with the audio commentary, and it's him and his mom, which is the fucking cutest thing you'll ever hear. But they both like the scene where the what kind of beer scene, like they both love the Hudson dancing scene, but they hold it. They literally, like, she literally made everybody stop in reverence to the what kind of beer scene. She's like, guys, let's just sit here and just sit in this moment with her. And like, it was complete silence on their part. And all you hear is like the rustle of the leaves and like the breath of Kate Hudson. It is so beautiful. I love those scenes. She can do no wrong in this movie.
Let's move on to best line. I feel like there's going to be so many choices for this, and I'm going to jump in here first. I really like the line of "I didn't invent the rainy day, man. I just had the best umbrella." It kind of encapsulates, like, even through the worst times, there's always something to, he's always going to stay himself and keep looking towards the positive of this. And I just hearing that quote really made me smile. I think there's so many great ones to choose from, though, in this. So, Jader, I'm going to throw it to you now. What is your choice for best line?
I am the golden god, bro. Hands down. It was already, I know it was said earlier. I was hearing you guys speak. But that scene is another one worth mentioning, man. It was such a great moment. And I feel we all have a little bit of William inside. Obviously, Rachel is William. So just that fucking moment of freedom and just, feeling the way that he is, like living the fucking life is basically what that scene is. So I always go back to that scene. Every time, the first time I saw it, I was just in awe. Again, I saw this movie way late. Without even seeing a trailer to it. So I knew, again, that it was about a writer that followed a band, but again, I thought he was going to get lost in drugs and all that stuff. They didn't know, again, how charming this movie was. So after seeing it, and Kyle, you mentioning that scene, and I didn't fucking think about it, and you kind of hit the nail on the head. I probably like that scene a little bit more than the Tiny Dancer scene now. But the first time, him proving himself, him saying like, hey, I'm just not a writer. Like, this is my band. This is my favorite band. And this and that and that and that, just calling the shots in that scene is pretty fantastic. So imagine touring with your favorite band. It's a mind-blowing experience. So him saying, I'm the golden god, just feeling that it's such a feel-good scene. And it puts a smile ear to ear, like ear to ear every time that I watch the scene. So best quote, hands down.
Rachel, what's your choice for best line?
Best line has to go to the most perfect, the second most perfect casting in all of this, and that is Lester Bangs, but played by Philip Seymour Hoffman. And it's the only true currency in this bankrupt world is what you share with someone else when you're uncool. And I love that line. That line is just so good. Also, Penny has some really, really great ones.
Yeah.
I always tell the girls, never take it seriously. If you never take it seriously, you never get hurt. You never get hurt. You always have fun. And if you ever get lonely, just go to the record store and visit your friends. And that's literally something I would used to do on tour. I would miss my Warped Tour family so much. And I would literally just go to like malls and go to Hot Topic and go look at like the shirt wall and be like, I miss you guys so much. And then I was like a 30-something-year-old woman in Hot Topic crying while staring at the t-shirt wall. I got talked to a little bit. She also has a really beautiful line that like just it resonated with me when I started touring. When she and William, I think it's literally the background right here. when William is trying to tell Penny that he has to get this interview with Russell, he has to complete his article, and he has to get home, and she just goes, "You are home." Like, it just hits real hard. Also, it's great. Rock stars have kidnapped my son. And is it that hard to make us look cool?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. There's so many great things to choose from here. Let's move on.
Feck you. Feck you is so great. Feck you.
Feck you. Casting what ifs. There's a lot for this movie, guys. There's a lot of casting what ifs. So I'm going to get to them as fast as I can. The biggest one, I think, is that Brad Pitt was this part was written. Russell Hammond was written for Brad Pitt, and he was attached for a while, like working with Cameron Crowe and everything. They were getting together, and Brad Pitt finally just said, like, I'm not the guy for this. He finally just figured it out and said, I'm not going to be able to commit to this like you need me to. So he stepped aside, and that's obviously how we got Billy Crudup. That could have been a major. I think Brad Pitt probably could have crushed it too.
He could have crushed it. Absolutely, he could have crushed it. I mean, I love Billy Crudup in this fucking scene. I mean, not scene, in this film. He's such a prick. But I feel like Brad Pitt definitely could have crushed it. I'm kind of happy with the way that that it worked out, obviously. But we've done some casting what ifs in the show where like that wouldn't have worked. Brad Pitt could have definitely worked.
Yeah.
I don't know if I agree with you. Like, I think that like Brad Pitt just has a very different vibe than what the character of Russell, I think, needed. And I think that Billy brought it perfectly. I think Brad would have made a great drummer. Like if he was the silent bassist, if he was the bassist, that would have been fucking hilarious. Him just sitting there and be like, so what chemical would be missing if you weren't in the band? He'd be like, bass. Like Brad Pitt would have nailed that. It would have been so funny. But like I think that Billy's got like that perfect 70s rocker vibe. Whereas I feel like Brad Pitt would have been, I don't know. He's too like beach rock. Like he's more like Jack Johnson, beachy rock, like 311 vibe than like Stillwater, you know?
Right.
Okay.
So I feel we also got a couple more here. Sarah Polley was supposed to be Penny Lane. There's a lot of people who auditioned for Penny Lane and didn't work out. And I'll get to a couple more of those in a second. Jon Favreau and Jack Black both auditioned for Lester Bangs. That could have been fun. I could see Favreau. I really could at that time.
You can even given the time, Jack Black wasn't Jack Black yet. You get me? Yeah. Like he could have done it too. Honestly, out of the three, Philip Seymour Hoffman, hands down, the better actor.
The amount of studying into Lester Bangs' life that he did, like he got it so right that like friends and family of Lester Bang were like at the premiere, like talking to Cameron Crowe about how he, they don't know how, but he got like mannerisms correct, you know, like he did such a great job.
I got another one here. Kirsten Dunst auditioned for Penny Lane and didn't get it, obviously. That's another big one.
Thank God.
Oh, yeah.
Thank God.
Oh, I would have hated Penny Lane.
Here's a bunch more. Uma Thurman turned down the role of Penny Lane. Could have been in there. Scarlett Johansson auditioned for a role that was later cut. A role that never happened in here. Elijah Wood screen tested for the role of William. Will Forte was supposed to be part of Dennis Hope, but Jimmy Fallon won that role. Michael Shannon auditioned for an unknown part. He later said it was the worst audition of his life. So Claire Danes was a top contender for Penny Lane. And what else do I got in here? People like Christina Applegate, Selma Blair, Jennifer Connelly, Penelope Cruz, Cameron Diaz, Elisha Dushku, Mia Djokovic.
All coming off of Something About Mary, Cruel Intentions. They were hot that year. 1999 was a hot year for the 2000s. So, yeah, it makes sense.
Toni Collette turned down the role of Penny Lane. She could have been Penny Lane, but turned down. And finally, the biggest one, which I don't know if you guys know this, William Bibiani was almost William Miller.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
Get the fuck out, really?
Our own William Bibiani from the movie Trivia Showdown was very close to landing the role of William Miller.
Yep.
I had no fucking idea. Holy shit.
Do you know the details of that, Rachel?
I don't know the details, but we talked about this, I think, when we met, and he found out that Almost Famous was like my favorite movie of all time, or one of, definitely top 3. But he mentioned how he would joke about how like he wouldn't even need to like get into character because he's already like the name is already
that
there.
guy. He's William. Yeah, seriously.
I was like, well, that's cute. But no, he talks about it very lighthearted, so it seemed to be like a good experience, and it was sad, but like, you know, he's happy, so it's fine.
Oh, we gotta get him on the show. We gotta ask him. I don't know if it's gonna like open some fucking cuts, like some wounds, but
that's a pre-interview question.
Yeah.
We should remember
hey,
hearing that he was like very close. Like he was like one of the top 2 or 3 choices for the role of William Miller, and then obviously just missed out on it. Could you imagine that? Like he probably would have been perfect at the time.
It would have been great. But I do love Patrick Fugit taking on this role. Like he does it so well. Just like the way he rolls his eyes and the way he gets exasperated and angry, but still is like adorable and wonderful and sweet and kind. Like he pulled it off and he did great. And I'm sure Bibiani would have been fantastic.
We move on to our next category, the Mahershala Ali Award for Best Sharpshooter. The character does the most in the least amount of time. Jader, I'm going to start with you on this one. Who's your pick for the Mahershala Ali Award?
I actually have Jimmy Fallon for this. I thought Jimmy Fallon did his shit in this movie. In and out, didn't break character. Like he's usually, I don't know, like as a late night talk show host, I think he's great. As an actor, not so fucking much. And I don't like a lot of his movies. Obviously, when I saw this movie, he was already an established late night talk show host. So seeing him in this film, I'm like, oh, great, Fallon's in this. You know, I don't know why he, like with me at least, he has a stigma where I just didn't really care for him, and I thought he really did his shit in this movie. He was really good. So that was mine. I loved his character. I just thought he was great. He was in and out. He wasn't in the film. He wasn't in the film enough to be a supporting role or anything like that. So, my pick.
Rachel, who's your pick for this award?
I gotta go with. I mean, he's in it a lot more than most of the other like subs, I guess. But I honestly like you can't have this movie without Philip Seymour Hoffman. Like,
like that's a good pick. No, absolutely.
He does such a fucking beautiful job, and it's so great to watch him. And he, you know, loves music too. So when he gets passionate about music, he's really passionate about music in real life. So like, it's just the way that he talks to William, like he doesn't want to talk down to him because he's a kid, but he also knows that he's not like a grown up. So he walks that line very delicately with William and like giving him advice and just the words that he uses, you know.
Yes.
It's just he does it so he's so perfect in this.
So I was going back and forth between 2, and Hoffman was one of my choices, so I'm going to go with the other one, and that's Frances McDormand. I don't know if she's in it too much to qualify, but I feel like in her time that she is in, she steals every single moment. She's great as this mom who's just looking out for her child. She really wants to make sure he's having fun, but also that he's not getting into trouble and he's always safe. And I love her evolution as a character and to slowly letting her kid grow up. Like one of my favorite moments in this film is when she's talking on the phone with him and he can't really hear her. And she just goes, "I love you." Like just accepting that, you know, he's going to live his life, but I love you, and just go out and be safe. I'm always going to be there for you as your mom. And then he finally you're rooting for him to hear her so that he can say it back. Like, no, tell your mom you love her, please.
and then he gets confused for telling a groupie that he loves her. So, but that phone throw that she does after he hangs up, where she's like just frustrated and sad. Like,
absolutely.
The fact that they left that in like makes that scene so beautiful and perfect and just adds so much depth to that character. I love that movie. Like that. I mean, Frances McDormand is amazing.
Yeah, she's so great. She's so great.
So
Yeah, literally. Every time I see her, and I'm like, why are you so good in this? Again.
She's great in everything, and I feel like we kind of forget every time she makes a movie. It's like, oh yeah, Frances McDormand is probably one of I feel like we really need to have a conversation about her being one of the best actresses ever. Because when has she turned in a bad performance? Never. And then whenever she's like in a film, it's always
I can tell you a film that I'm not a fan of.
Transformers,
not
Dark of
because
the
of
Moon.
her.
Huh? No, she wasn't bad in it. It's just I wasn't a fan of the film. I really didn't like Burn After Reading, and I didn't care for anything in that film.
That's okay.
Yeah, see,
That's
it's just
fair.
it's one of those movies that I did when again Schmodown. I saw Burn After Reading right around when I saw Almost Famous, so I left a really bad taste in my mouth. I think I saw them back to back, if I'm not mistaken. So it's crazy that we're talking about it. But I saw Burn After Reading because I was doing a deep dive in Coen Brothers.
Yeah.
And I again saw Fargo again, saw Oh Brother Where Are That? Fucking just hitting greats. Get to Burn After Reading, and I was like, why this movie? It has praise and it has fans, and I'm like, why? Why does it have this? And
it's got its moments. It's funny. But she's amazing, regardless of how you feel about the movie. She's always amazing. And
that's the thing. She was probably besides Brad Pitt will probably get sharpshooter in that film for me, but she was fucking great in it. And it goes to say, like, the movie for me didn't do anything, but she was fantastic. And it goes to show she is honestly one of the best working actresses. Like, I know, Kyle, for the site we did that like March Madness best actors and best actress. I feel like she was really slipped under the
oh, that's sad.
Under the radar, and I feel like we do need to talk about her more because she is fantastic. She really she's so great. But awkward, quiet moment. Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, sorry, my internet cut out for a sec. The Bill Murray Award for Best Cameo is going to be our next category here. And Rachel, I'm going to throw this to you first. Who is your winner for the Bill Murray Award?
So what I discern as a cameo is something that is very small, probably forgettable, but they might have a few lines, but that's it. So for me, my favorite cameo, the one that made me giggle when I saw him, was Rainn Wilson.
I knew it was one of my tops too.
As an editor for Rolling Stone, I love him. He's just so weird, and it's like what was his character in Office Space, or not Office Space, The Office?
Oh, Dwight.
Dwight Schrute.
He was literally 1973 Dwight. That's what he was. He was so amazing. He has some funny little lines that every now and then, but he's just I love him in that role. It made me happy.
He just won this award too on our show when we did Galaxy Quest a couple weeks ago.
I love that movie.
Yeah,
and he did. So again, I had never seen Galaxy Quest, and that was another one that I told you about this. That I was like, I never saw it. It was fucking great. Loved it. Who do you got, Kyle? I'll let you go.
I think there was only two options for this, and Rainn Wilson was one of them. So I'll throw out the other one. I think that's Jay Baruchel. It's so funny to see him as a little kid.
It was so great. So the fanboy, and again, I feel that role. I understand because again, I've been lucky enough to meet. I want to say the lead singer of my favorite band. I've met him about 3 times now. Every show, every tour, so I know exactly what now.
You met Paul McCartney?
Get the fuck out of here, dude.
You met Bono?
I'm sorry, and I'll say it on this fucking show. I think the fucking Beatles are overrated. My bad. Yeah. That's me, man. I'm a Stones over a Beatles guy. I'm sorry.
I mean, that's fine. You can like the Stones over the Beatles, but you don't get to talk bad about either one of them.
No. Again, it was never in my my mom likes the Beatles, never crazy about them. I guess my mom was born. I guess she was born later. I don't know, but my mom is a big Journey fan, REO Speedwagon, Chicago. Like that's the type of music I like. Like Beatles for her were like they're okay. Same thing for me. I even did a deep dive in the whole other conversation. Saw Across the Universe for the first time. My Guitar Gently Weeps. Is that what the song is called? Like the famous Beatles
Oh
song?
yeah.
Wow. That's a great song. Other than that, it's fine.
Different conversation.
Different
So
conversation.
Yeah. We're gonna. That's a
we,
whole different combo. Anyways,
so
but
Jaybird
Jader and
Show
Show,
and
I
movies.
think he did so great. I loved him as the fan. I kind of like when I saw him. I'm like, oh shit, look who it is. However, I was like, no, not even that. But it was one of those where again, I understand him because when I met the lead singer of my favorite band, like face to face, shook his hand, had a couple shots with him, and I was like, holy shit, like I can't believe this moment is happening. Not many people can say that. So the whole them looking for the hotel and just him spazzing, I love that shit. I thought it was great.
Next, that takes us to the Gary Oldman Everyone Award for Best Overacting. And I'm going to step in here, Jader, and step on your Mahershala Ali Award winner, Jimmy Fallon. I'm with you on his acting. I love Jimmy Fallon as a late night host. He's probably my favorite, but like, come on, dude. When the plane's going down, he's just like, I quit. Like, I just can't take him seriously. He is just different in this movie. I don't know why. He doesn't have the same feel to him to the rest of the movie. It's like he's in a different film at some points. He's good, but that's what we like to say on this show is it's 80% compliment and 20% insult. Like, sorry, Jimmy, I'm a big fan of you, but not as much in this movie. So Jimmy Fallon wins this award for me. Rachel, who's your pick for this award?
I mean, this was really close between Fairuza Balk and the person who I picked. Mainly just because, like, I chose not to pick Fairuza just because, like, I know girls like that, and I know that that's not overacting in that point. But also, I also know lead singers that have hissy fits about t-shirts like Jason Lee does, and yet I really love how everything is such a big deal to Jason Lee and to that character. And so I picked Jason. He embodies, like, everything that he does in this movie is just so on point with a lot of lead singers. It's called LSD, lead singer disease, or lead singer disorder, and it's just he gets very egotistical, and everything has to revolve around him, and everything is important. Everything is so important. So I nominated Jason Lee for this one.
Tim in the chat also said Jason Lee because I feel like Jason Lee could be qualified for almost any movie he's in. He just has that weight to him, but it works. Jader, now it's your turn, man. Who's your pick for this?
I have Jason Lee for a different award, but I actually went with Fairuza Balk. Again, but it was more compliment than like a diss, to be completely honest with you. I don't know. It was her, that scene where she's on the phone, fucked up completely, talking to William's mom and the whole nine. That was kind of the scene that sold me on it. But it's more compliment than everything because she just played that fucking role so well. Again, I've never been on tour with anybody. I don't know if this is regular, but when I saw, I'm like, it's a little much. It's a little much for me.
I don't know. I mean, she does have such a great speech that she gives to Frances McDormand's character about how she should be proud of William and how she's raised a good man, and like she's like, and I know men, as I'm sure you do. Like,
yeah. That whole speech. No. Again, it's more compliment than it is. It's not the Jimmy Fallon award.
Yeah.
That brings us to the Steve Carell See You Next Tuesday award. For people confused, it is based on Steve Carell's character off the way back. Steve Carell's a very nice person. Jader, I'm gonna let you go first on this one. Who's your pick for this?
I actually went with Jason Lee.
Why?
In this fucking, because he's such a dick throughout this fucking movie, man. Like, I understand. Like, don't get me wrong. Again, like you have Russell is somewhat of a dick, but I feel like Jason Lee throughout the film is bitching about everything. He calls William the enemy. He's just overall, he's just not pleasant to be around with. Again, plays the fucking role well. I understand why he feels that way about reporters when he talks about him saying like, yo, this guy talked about fucking Zeppelin. He's talking shit about everybody. He is the fucking, and I understand he just plays the character so well throughout where I'm like, man, I'm so used to like Kevin Smith, Jason Lee versus this Jason Lee. This guy's a fucking dickhead. Fuck him. So my choice.
Rachel, I'm very curious to hear your pick on this because Jader and I talked before the show about what the pick could be. Like, there's really not a lot of people who you feel like you could hate, but I want to hear who you have for this award.
It's not like a hate. It's just who plays the biggest dick in all of this. And for me, that has to be Russell. It has to be Billy Crudup's character because he's such a weak-spined character that he's not honest. He's not honest with Penny. You know, he doesn't come out and tell her that he's gotten back together with his girlfriend and that, you know, she needs to leave by New York. Like, he lets everybody do his dirty work for him so that he can keep his hands clean. And it just bothers me because if I value honesty over almost everything else, and like the fact that he's so shady about all of that. I mean, I would love to say that in the overall theme of the movie that the See You Next Tuesday award goes to like progression and like, you know, like the music industry as a whole, because it just destroys people and careers and families. While I also love it with all of my heart, we have a very complicated relationship. It's fine. But yeah, I think Russell's kind of a twat nugget in all of this.
Oh, absolutely right. You're absolutely right. So, spoiler alert, when Kyle said that he had mentioned that we had spoken about this, Russell was going to be the thing. So I knew he was going Russell. So I was like, we got to talk about Jason Lee a little bit more, I feel.
Yeah.
But that's why I went Jason Lee. But Kyle, who's your pick?
So it was Russell, but I thought of someone as we were doing this episode so far. And I you guys are going to feel the same way. The fact checker at Rolling Stone magazine, she's a bitch. Like, why does she have to be so mean to him about this stuff? He didn't just make this stuff up. He didn't make it. Like, she's just like, oh, he's just a fan. It just dismisses him. Like, I could feel his dread afterwards. Like, it hurt. So I after watching the movie again, I'm like, man, she just like dismisses this kid right from the beginning. So I think she definitely.
I would like to defend her. In her defense, she is a woman working in the music industry in the 70s in a high-profile job for one of the biggest magazines in the world. Do you know how much crap she has to deal with on a minute-by-minute basis? And then anybody working in the music industry understands how fucking annoying it is when you get these fans that think that they know what they're doing and then waste your time. Like, you don't have time to waste. Like, in her mind, somebody gave her a story. She checked it out. She spent so much time researching and contacting people and tracking them down and checking everything in this story. And then to find out that it's all bullshit, she has a lot to deal with. She's working for a major company. No, I feel her in my soul. Like, she is part spirit. I understand her. The fact that she didn't like take him by the shirt collar and throw him out of a window, like, that calls restraint. So
she seems like she's running that place. Like, she's like making sure everyone's in line. But at the same time too, I was like, man, she's just like, he's a kid. Like, chill out. He did we just saw this entire movie too. We know what he wrote was true, but she's just like.
But according to her, she just got her time wasted and screwed over by a child. Like, no, she's got every right to be angry. Go her.
And then like I said, Russell Hammond too. He is. I mean, the guy's a cheater. He just openly is like, hey, we have lives at home, and we also like living our lives out here. Like, just trying to make sure that let William Miller know that like, hey, cheating's okay. We're allowed to do that. Like, just trying to justify it. Like, get the fuck out of here, man.
Look, life has different rules on the road. I will say that. Life is different. Life is weird. I get it. But the fact is that Russell is more open and honest with William in that 2-minute discussion than he is with Penny Lane that entire fucking tour. And he is putting his penis in her. So that is not right.
No. Interesting details. I got a couple of them real fast. Cameron Crowe passed around this script all around. It got into the hands of Steven Spielberg, and Spielberg read it over the weekend and told him to direct every single word in the script, which he ended up doing. So to get that phone call from Spielberg saying, "Hey, you got something great here," that must be a pretty great feeling for Cameron Crowe.
Yeah.
A real band named Stillwater actually existed and allowed them to use the name in the film because they love the script so much. That's pretty cool because I've never heard of Stillwater as an actual band.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, it's based on Cameron Crowe's real life, what he actually did as a music journalist. Pearl Jam's Mike McCready provided the guitar for the Stillwater songs. I think that's a pretty cool little detail right there. And then finally, Philip Seymour Hoffman went Michael Jordan Game 6 flu game when he shot all 4 days that he was on set. He had the flu. So he's just the true professional here.
Well, that line about cough syrup was ad-libbed by him because he was actually high on cough syrup.
Mm-hmm.
Holy shit.
Like, yeah, he was like pounding back like the Dayquils and shit. Like he was trying to do everything he could to be healthy for that. Also, in the extended cut, they have a birthday party for Penny Lane, but they couldn't get the rights to Happy Birthday. So they sang a version of Cut the Cake. Literally, like one of the crew guys started going, "Cut the cake," and everybody started joining in. It made it into the movie. And Led Zeppelin only let Fast Times at Ridgemont High use a small sampling from Kashmir, but let this movie use 5 songs because they did this era so right that they were like,
yeah, dude,
like here's the rewards for being good to us, you know. Yeah.
They're notoriously stingy with who they let use their music. Like I'm surprised we got it in Thor. It was so perfect. Yeah. Thor Ragnarok.
Yeah.
All right, 2 more categories left. Apex Mountain. It's the
Wait, I have another interesting fact. Are you kidding me?
Go for it.
I did my research. Cameron Crowe and Jader the Hurricane Paramo share the same birthday.
Nice.
Woot! That's it. That's all I got. July 13th.
I know it took his mom 10 years of convincing him to write the script and try and get it made. 10 years.
Holy shit, man. Really? So he started this shit in the 1991, 1990? Holy shit.
Yeah.
1990, yeah, because it came out in fucking
2000.
Even before that.
Yeah, it would have been like the late 80s that you started like, you should do this for like, you should release a movie. Like whenever I started talking to people, they're like, you need to write a book, and I'm like, not while I'm alive.
No, you definitely should. I'm not even fucking kidding, but we'll talk about that later.
I will, but it's going to be released like upon my death, so I don't have to deal with the bullshit that happens afterwards. Yeah, no, there's so many interesting details. Like, I think Frampton was the one who taught Billy Crudup how to play guitar.
Mm-hmm.
Like 6 weeks when he got cast, like 6 weeks before they started filming. Like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, oh yeah, I'm working for Almost Famous. Like, I just need to learn guitar. Here's Peter Frampton.
Jesus Christ, dude.
Here's how to do it.
So that takes us to Apex Mountain, and this is the point in someone's career or anything's career where it never got better for them after this, but at this point they were at the top. They could do basically whatever they wanted. I feel like there's quite a few conversations we can have about this. Let's get the easy one out of the way. Patrick Fugit, it's never going to get better for him. Like, this is when you think of him, this will always be what we associated with his career, right?
Right.
Yep,
but
no, that was my pick.
I don't like he was in Risk Cutters and Saved, and he was great in both of them. Like, I think he still had like a good career afterwards, but like, are we going with roles or movies?
But are both of those movies better than Almost Famous?
Oh, are we going with the movie as a whole, or like their roles in it?
I'm saying them as in their career, like this
in their career. Like what was William better than the character he played in Saved? Is what I'm what we're saying. No, it wasn't. Yeah, that was why he was my character as well. I mean, not my character, my pick.
I think there's quite a few though. I feel like we could have a conversation by quite a few people. Do you guys have any nominees before I jump into a couple of other ones?
For sure, I nominate Fairuza Balk.
Fairuza Balk.
She did nothing after this.
But I feel like she was better in The Craft or even in The Waterboy. Like, I feel like those were her better roles. You get me? So for me, it almost famous. Like if you think The Craft, you don't think, oh, her character in The Craft is less than what she did in Almost Famous. You get me? So
I
like
guess
that.
it's more of a personal choice because I know the girl, like I know the girl that she played, and like I love that girl, you know, especially like as much as I love her as Nancy in The Craft, there's nothing that she did in The Craft that compares to the conversation that she has with Russell at the backstage table during dinner after William gets his article shut down by him. When she tells him, and literally, like, I think that was one of the a quote that I was like contemplating for best line is in 20 years we'll remember her and nothing else and not much else. Like that whole conversation that she has with Russell, like chastising him for being an asshole and like pulling that crap with William. Like I don't think that there's a scene or a role that she handles better than this one.
I could see that. I think we should jump into the big discussions here. Let's hit the big ones. Billy Crudup, does he qualify for this? Is this the apex of Billy Crudup's career? When we look back at his career, what's the role we remember him for him most?
I mean this, but he also
Big
was
Blue Dick.
amazing in Big Fish.
Big Fish.
Big
He
Blue
was
Dick
Dr.
for me.
Manhattan.
Watchmen, man. Dr. Manhattan.
Yeah, Watchmen.
Like, yeah. So
I think it's
that's
this movie.
why. That's why I didn't. That's what. I mean, performance-wise, yeah, this is probably his best film. But I don't. It's crazy to me, to be completely honest with you, that when I think Billy Crudup, it's maybe because I saw this movie later. But for me, I always go back to Dr. Manhattan, or now Zack Snyder's Justice League.
Stop it.
I mean, I don't think that Big Fish or Watchmen are better or worse than this. I think that he plateaued at this level with this role and then just kept going. Like I don't think he's done worse or better on a whole, but like yeah, I don't think maybe Billy is the most, but like you know,
I think that when we look at his career, I think this is going to be the one after everything's said and done that it's like, no, this was Billy Crudup's defining moment in his career is Russell Hammond. And I feel like it's just always going to be, I mean, there was just a podcast series that was out there about the making of this film. And anytime he hops onto one of these, he has so many more stories and so much more passion about this film over and over again. I just feel like this is one of them that I think this is going to be the role that we look back at in his career, that this was his defining moment. Let's talk about
Alien Covenant.
You shut the fuck up.
Let's talk about Kate Hudson. Is this her apex mountain?
I mean, this is my favorite role of hers. I don't think that
me too.
she does any better. Like, I also don't think that she was given a lot of roles. Like, there's not a lot of roles out there like Penny Lane.
No.
So the fact that she could do it and nail it, like, I don't know. She's just so good in everything too. Because like, while it's like comparing apples and Volkswagens, like I do love her in How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days. I think she's
Thank you. Andy is probably one of my favorite roles that she's ever done. I fell in love with her less than 10 days. So I understand Matthew fucking McConaughey in that film. And again, this is I saw How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days in theaters over watching Almost Famous. So I always had that crush on her when I saw that film. So How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days for me is her apex, but it's unfair to say because I know Penny Lane is the better role, better acted role, better fucking lines, the whole nine. Overall better role.
She's on the poster.
Yeah,
no,
but it's also.
I mean, she's
like
on the fucking poster of How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days, guy.
But like, comparing Penny Lane and Andy Anderson is like comparing a gorgeous Wagyu T-bone steak to like a greasy cheeseburger. It just depends on what you want, but it's both of them are the best that you could ever hope for. You know, like if you're hungover, you're not going to go for the steak. You're going to go for the burger and the grease. You know, and if you're out on a date looking for something fancy, you go for the steak and not the burger, you know?
Like, so like this isn't her apex, it's pretty damn close then, is what we're saying.
And it could be argued. I'm not saying that you're not wrong. I'm not saying that at all because honestly, if you're giving me like every single fucking role that she's ever done, Almost Famous is most definitely probably her best role. Yeah, I mean, for me, when and it's crazy till this day. You tell me Kate Hudson, I automatically go to How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days, and I'm like, she was so great in that. So
it's just familiarity recognition, and I think while this was the better and deeper and meatier role for her, like it wasn't her most commercial role.
Yeah, you want to know what fucking role I hated her in? Marshall. Fuck her in that movie.
Okay.
All right, very interesting, Jader. I got a couple more here. We can hit them pretty quick. Fictional bands. I think this is the apex mountain for fictional bands. On our website, we just recently did the top 10 fictional bands ever, and this one was the consensus number one, Stillwater. So, yeah, so I feel
still think we should make an argument for the fucking shitty Beatles, but whatever.
They're so shitty, man. It's not a clever name.
Yeah. It's not just a clever name.
Jason Lee? Is this it? Is this his Apex Mountain?
No.
Oh, are you kidding me? No, he goes on to do Dogma and like all of the other Kevin Smith movies after that. He also did The Incredibles. Like, no, dude, this is like
that motherfucker is Syndrome, bitch.
Right.
Yeah. No.
This is a stepping stone to every higher level that he reached.
Brody for me, Mallrats, he always has my heart, man. That for me is probably his best role. Brody is like it's up there, man. And he has, let me tell you, man, he has, like, for me, Dogma, again, he was in, well, I'm mentioning all Kevin Smith, like, he was in Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back.
Let's get the last one.
One movie I did hate from him, not gonna lie, Dreamcatcher.
That's not his fault.
I know it's not his fault. That movie just fucking sucked.
It's like hating
Aiden Christensen. Any of the chipmunks.
Yeah, it's like hating Aiden Christensen for his work in the prequels. Like, you can't hate him for that. That was all direction.
Isn't Jason Lee fucking Underdog?
Yeah, dude, I love Underdog.
I'm pretty sure he's fucking Underdog. Yeah.
He's also in. He also plays Dave in the Chipmunk movies.
Mm-hmm.
Which are
we hit Cameron Crowe. Is this Cameron Crowe's Apex Mountain?
That's who I had for. Go ahead.
I would say yes, except Elizabethtown is near and dear to my heart as well. So I love that, but like this one is my favorite of his because it is so personal to me.
See, I'm a Jerry Maguire guy, and I could go back and watch that movie over and over again. But if we're looking at Cameron Crowe, his apex in his career, it's really hard to decide, like, what was his peak in his career? Because obviously it's nowhere near now because he's completely disappeared off the map at this point. Like, I'm surprised a studio like Netflix isn't giving him $40 million to make whatever he wants to do. Like, whatever, just give him money. Like, just give him something to go right out.
Obviously did not see Aloha, sir.
I obviously did. That's why. Is that why? We're just going to dismiss everything he's done.
We're not talking about Aloha.
Aloha.
God, that movie sucked.
God,
and
but is this
like if you think about let's talk about Aloha, but let's talk about fucking cast. You had Bradley Cooper, you had Emma Stone, you had Rachel McAdams, Bill Murray, John Krasinski.
We're not getting into an Aloha conversation. What are we doing? Come on.
We're not comparing Almost Famous and Aloha. It's not even a match. It's a slaughter. I mean, Jerry Maguire was amazing, but for me, like I said, this movie is my top 3 favorites of all time, if not my favorite, depending on my mood. Like, there's nothing that will beat this for me, but I don't think that his career was on a massive downslide after this movie. Like, he still did amazing movies. He
did Vanilla Sky. We had Elizabethtown, like you said.
We bought a zoo.
We bought a zoo.
The fuck is the Union?
The Union.
I've never heard of that.
You've never heard of The Union? It's okay. It's a documentary.
Oh, okay. I was like, what the fuck is that, dude? I'm like, here, like, is there a film I missed? Like,
yeah, man. But honestly, looking at his career, I think it's Jerry Maguire to Almost Famous. Like that. I think that's his apex if we're really looking at the definition of it. But you can make an argument in either way. Also, Say Anything's just amazing too. So I think we'd be remiss not to touch on that. All right, who won the movie? Rachel, this is your movie. You picked this one. Who won the movie?
I mean, me, obviously. We won this. We won the movie because we all get to watch it.
That's always a cheating answer. That's my answer usually.
It is a hands down. Nobody can touch this role. It is one of my favorite roles of all time, and it's Kate. Kate Hudson won this movie. Like I said, she was originally cast as Anita, a very small role. She was her devotion to Cameron and this story and this movie and these people literally proved that she was Penny Lane. And she still gets like called Penny Lane when she goes out in public, like people recognize her as Penny Lane. It's just such an iconic role. And this is when people talk about people who have gotten spurned by the Oscars, this is my number one. Like the fact that she didn't even get nominated is obnoxious. The fact that she didn't win is atrocious. Like it.
Oh, we're going to have that episode and you're going to be invited.
No, she was nominated.
She was nominated, but she didn't win. Yeah, she was nominated, but she didn't win.
Who did she lose to?
Frances McDormand was also nominated that year too.
And she was amazing. But like this wasn't Frances's movie. This was her movie.
I don't know. Who did she lose to that year? I'm sure they split the vote. That has to be what happened.
I'll look it up. You guys keep talking.
I think I would pick Cameron Crowe, honestly. I think there's an argument to be made for Billy Crudup. I think there's an argument to be made for Kate Hudson, like you did. But I'm going to go Cameron Crowe. This was his only win for Academy Award in his entire career, was writing of Almost Famous. And Almost Famous wasn't even nominated for Best Picture, which is mind-blowing to me. I think that's the year 2000, so it lost to Gladiator. I guess it's fine. I would always go back and watch Almost Famous over Gladiator, though. Both great movies.
Nope.
I mean, to be fair, you just discovered it, so the love hasn't like sunk into the marrow of your bone like it has for us over the last 21 years.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ. Come on. So, Almost Famous. Sorry. Was nominated for 2 Best Supporting Actresses, including Frances McDormand.
Yeah.
And they lost to Marsha Gray Harden for Pollock.
Yeah. Which,
yeah. And we're still talking about that role, right?
Yeah, totally. And that movie, 100%. That meant so much to everybody. Shit. No one's going to do a deep dive into Pollock. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's great and I love Ed Harris, but like that role was no Penny Lane.
No, man, not even close, man. Not even close. Get the fuck out of here. Kate Hudson won the film for me, hands down.
Yeah. Kate Hudson. I said Cameron Crowe. I think there's just so many. I think a lot of people there's arguments for, but I think those are your top 2 right there. Special shout out to all the other people in this movie that we barely mentioned. People like Zooey Deschanel or Anna Paquin, Noah Taylor as the band manager, I think is great. I think there's just a lot of great people in this film, and I think it's held a legacy for a long time now, and it's still going to keep going. Any final thoughts on this film, guys?
Watch it. Show it to kids.
If you haven't seen this movie, just watch it. Highly recommend it.
Yeah, if your teenager is showing an interest in music, show them this movie. There's like one set of nipples that you see for like 5 seconds. They can get over it. Show them this.
Oh yeah, she does.
Yeah, Kate goes dancing around wearing just her jacket. But like it's so sweet and so wonderful and so great. Like it's just watch this movie.
Yeah,
please show it to people. Do some watch-alongs or family movie nights, whatever. It's so good. And then listen to the music. Like put a Spotify station together. Listen to that music. It's so good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
There's a reason why they're the best fictional band of all time. And guys, that is going to do it for this episode of the Jader and Kyle Show. Thank you all so much for joining us for this ride. It's been a long episode. Rachel, thank you so much for coming on this episode. I hope you had a great time.
I do. Anytime I get to see you guys and talk about my favorite movie, it's a very happy time for me.
Please tell everybody everything you got going on. What's going on in your world? What podcasts you got going on? Just promote your stuff.
So you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at RM Silvestrini. There's only one R in the last name. And then every Sunday, starting this Sunday, we are resuming our Zoe's Extraordinary Playlist watch along. Not a watch along, in the after show. I'm so excited. The first half of the show, we ended up getting the creator and writer of the show on. We got 3 of the actors on, including Skylar. Like, it's just, it's so great. It's so much fun. The show is amazing. It's on Hulu, I believe. So you can download that and like watch that and catch up. It's such a good show. And then every Thursday night on my channel, you can find me hosting Movies, Music, and Mayhem, which I will be getting Jader on soon, very hopefully, where I talk to my friends and people I toured with about, our favorite movies and the music that we've used that's defined our lives, and what mayhem has been going on in our world during this quarantine, and how we've been using movies and music and art to stay kind of sane and reconnect with ourselves and with the people around us. So come hang out.
Sounds good. Jader, any last things you want to say before we get out of here?
I love this movie.
Oh, do you? Is it better than Gladiator?
Fuck no. It's not better than Gladiator.
Apples and
I'm just kidding.
You can't compare them.
They really are fucking different movies. But I do love Gladiator, and I absolutely plan on covering that film in this show. But yeah, no, just catch me here. Honestly, I have nothing going on right now. My match just aired. If you have not seen my match, it aired on Friday, me against Ginny and the Machine. Just waiting for, part 2 of whatever match I get in the movie Trivia Schmodown. But if anything, just go on there, support the Den. The Den is the Den. I said the Ben. The Den is the best fucking team in the movie Trivia Schmodown, and we're fucking taking heads this year. But yeah, just come out here, hang out. If you guys want to jump on the show, hit me up and we'll set something up. Rachel, again, thank you so much. Kyle, we finally got to talk Almost Famous. I know you've been dying to talk this film for a long time, so thank this lovely young lady over here for that.
Yes. No,
that's it. I'm done.
Rachel,
Whatever.
You have been a godsend coming on this show. We needed this because tomorrow we are talking about Schmidt with Adam Collins. So please tune in for that. It's going to be a fun episode. Thank you all again for joining us, and we will see you
right now, Rich.
We will see you tomorrow on another episode of the Jader and Kyle Show.